Welcome to Modern Home Masterminds with Bespoke Brokers. I'm Shauna Glazier, designated broker and owner.
And I'm Brittany Williamson, associate broker with Bespoke Real Estate. Shauna and I are Bespoke Real Estate, but we're also your guides to modern luxury across the entire state of Arizona.
Each week, we speak with masterminds shaping the modern spaces. Do you want to get a behind-the-scenes look at your design build team's processes? Open communication and teamwork will lead you to a successful project.
From architects to builders, designers, and more, let's explore the art of modern living together.
All right, welcome back, listeners. Are you constantly looking at cool houses like we are? Do you ever look at photos and wonder, how is it even possible to build this? Well, today's guest, Ryan Patten, knows what it takes to achieve the seemingly impossible.
That's right. Ryan is the owner of Arcadia Custom Builders, and he and his team are known for crafting some of the finest quality homes in Paradise Valley and Arcadia. We actually met Ryan through a home that we sold, a new build, that we sold not once, but twice, once for $11 million and then again for $13 million.
12.3.
Close enough. Almost $13 million. But it was all steel construction. And we really enjoyed getting to know him through that process, but also seeing kind of how he attacked the challenges that occurred on the project.
Yeah. So Ryan, on our pre-show call, you mentioned that the construction industry is at a pivotal moment right now, and not just referring to innovative new designs. Can you tell our listeners and share with us what's going on with your industry right now?
Yeah, so I think we have there's several factors that are playing into it. Like, I would say, at least in the Phoenix market, the complexity of the homes has really increased over the last handful of years. I think from our real estate market, like, we just didn't have the type of homes that we have now.
Sure.
And so I think some of the migration and, people moving around has increased the demand for these super sophisticated homes that are really complex, they're larger, and they're just overall bigger projects. I think for like on the building side of things, as well as like architecture, design, engineering, I think what it's done is it's really made everyone in the industry expand, what they were typically thinking about. And so like, that's one of the areas where we've seen like a dramatic shift is just in the complexity, the planning that it takes, the engineering that it takes, and, just figuring out how to get all of these parts and pieces in the right place to, build these larger scale projects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, Instagram.
Yeah.
And Pinterest.
Now you can see all sorts of things online. You mentioned in our call that there is a big labor shortage in the construction industry. Can you talk a little bit about that and about you mentioned there's a big gap in age of, you've got some younger guys and then you've got some older guys.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think one of the biggest challenges that we've faced over the last handful of years is number one, just the amount of projects. Like, and I'm going to talk about Phoenix specifically, but I think it is kind of a national issue too. But in Phoenix, we have, I think last year between all construction sectors, there was about 80 billion in projects, and we have about 170,000 construction workers. So like you start looking at that, and it becomes challenging, when you kind of get to those ratios. So that's one area where we've seen kind of like things that are a little shifted out of place. The other thing I think is also just kind of like a system issue where, like with education, like we don't have the feeder system that we used to have to, attract kind of the younger generation into construction. High schools have, a lot of them have kind of cut out, whether it's budgets or whatever else is driving it, but they've cut out a lot of the vocational training that existed in high schools that would then, it feed into, college or is some type of education training. So it's been a challenge because the younger guys that do end up into construction aren't coming in with the same level of experience. And, when we look at it, it's like the average age of a construction worker over the last 10 years has increased by 9 years. So it's like we have a workforce that's really kind of aging out. Like, I think in the next 10, 15, 20 years, it's going to become an even bigger issue. If we don't look at it and go, how are we going to kind of address this or fix this?
Yeah, I feel like the funding or the kids are maybe being drawn towards more technology, AI, cybersecurity, more work like that. And you're losing them that way. So I think, and I was going to ask you, what, is the construction world doing anything to generate more activity towards retaining or getting the younger guys back in construction? Is there any lobbying? Is there anything?
I'm not sure as far as lobbying. I think that, one of the things as an industry, I think it was kind of something where like we really needed to be doing something 20 years ago. And it's kind of slowly slipped and we're like, why is this happening? And so I think like we're kind of at that moment where it's like, okay, this is a big deal. But, I think what it's done is it's created an incredible opportunity for younger people to get into construction because we are so out of whack on, the supply and demand for labor that the wages that, everyone's making aren't what you would typically think of for blue collar work. And it's like, one of the interesting kind of numbers that I looked at, prepping for this was, the average salary of, like a skilled tradesman. And, when you kind of factor everything in, the average salary is about 110,000. And then you compare that to other industries, like corporate management or something like that is going to be right around 100,000. An attorney, the average salary is 130,000. And so it's like
with student debt,
with student debt. And so it's like,
they got started 4-6 years after.
Yeah. Or 8 years, it's like, it's so like when you kind of start looking at those, you're like, yeah, this, it has created a really, I think, unique opportunity for this generation if we can figure out how to get, kids in here. Yeah.
Well, and it's only raising our prices, right? That's why price per foot. It's because you're not only paying for the house, but you're paying for the labor. So it benefits the entire community to encourage people to be in the construction industry.
Definitely.
Well, and not only that, but it affects your guys' supply. Like, I think there were about, I don't remember the exact statistic, but it was about 980,000 houses that were built in the US last year. And we're like 2.5 million houses short. So it's like at some point you have to look at it and go, okay, we're either going to continue having a major supply problem or like we kind of need to figure out how to get more people into this business.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm wondering with all the talk about student loan debt and all that going on the past couple of years, if maybe that push towards the 4-year degree isn't as strong anymore. I know in my daughter's high school, they have a program, a vocational program, not at the school. She'd have to go down to EVIT and Mesa from Scottsdale, but they do have that program and they are introducing it to the kids. So it is something that I feel as a parent of a teenager, they are talking about, which is great because I feel like for a long time, you didn't really talk about that, unless your dad or your uncle or whoever was in construction, you had to go to university.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great statistic to have and to be able to share with the community that you can make money doing this. Yeah. It's hard work though, right?
Yeah, it's hard work. And I think that's part of it is it takes a special type of person who wants to wake up earlier than everyone else and get to the job earlier and work, outside doing hard stuff all day. But with that said, I think if you kind of balance everything out, it's a pretty great lifestyle. EVIT has actually reached out to us on the steel side of things, about doing internship opportunities and, the things that they can kind of do with us there. So I would love to see more and more of that, where we're kind of giving people options and saying, hey, it's not about going and working in an office all day.
Yeah. Let's jump into the steel, your steel business because I think it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And the house that Brittany mentioned that we sold to our client bought it and it was in steel framing stage. So we got to see this property and then we resold it. But it's just unique. We typically see it in commercial, not in residential, but it doesn't eliminate, but it reduces the contracting and then expansion. And then it helps. It's like mold proof, pest proof. Like it helps with so many things. It was really fantastic to watch it being built. So tell our listeners a little bit about that business of yours.
Yeah. So that business started in January of 2020, which is a really good time to start a business.
Was there a lumber shortage?
There was an everything shortage, but obviously we know kind of what happened at that point, but the reason that we kind of went that route is on these bigger houses that are more complex, that require more planning. We were just trying to deliver a better product. So I kind of started going down the rabbit hole. There was a company in Colorado that was, doing kind of this panelized steel walls. It sounds like they were like printing houses out of steel. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is pretty interesting because one of the challenges we've had is, just with the quality of the lumber and the amount of time and effort that we were putting into making, these really, really high-end houses look perfect. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of mind-blowing. I'm like, there's got to be a better way to do this. So flew up to Colorado.
And that just because like the wood is not straight, right?
Yeah, the wood's not straight. I mean, it's like
furring out or you're doing whatever to.
Yeah, just go like, I'm sure everyone's been to Home Depot, but if you walk down the lumber aisle, they like once the band gets cut on the lumber bundle, it's like you see a bunch of hockey sticks and it's really, really difficult to find a perfectly straight piece of lumber.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that, but
well, especially with it being newer growth, you mentioned.
Yeah,
right?
So it's new growth wood. Like we're farming the wood, so it's not the same quality wood that we had, 50 years ago
when we first started chopping down forests.
Yeah. And so that was a huge challenge is like, how do we make everything appear straight? And we would go through and float everything. It would like the amount of work that we put into it was mind boggling. And it also, it delayed the project. I don't want to say delayed because we planned for it, but we knew we had to add time to kind of correct all these issues that, we run into with wood. So I kind of started going down this direction. We found this company. I was like, okay, well, like we could have everything manufactured there, ship it down. And, ultimately we just came to the decision. We're like, okay, let's just start doing this. So with the, really how it kind of operates is we take every single component that's going into the house. We model it, like every single screw, every single hole, all gets modeled. We take that file, it's a BIM file, take that file, load it into the machine, and then the machine will cut every single part to size. It'll print the label on each piece that comes out. Everything's perfect. Like the machine just works. And so we kind of click it together like an erector said. And so number one, I was able to kind of solve some of the issues that we were having with wood, but I was also able to start attracting a lot younger group to work in this company because it is a little more technology based. It doesn't require this huge, long learning cycle to, be a master carpenter or anything like that. And
you just have to like Legos.
You have to like Legos, erector sets. I mean, that's really what it is. You kind of just click everything together. If there's a hole, put a screw in it. And, it's very, very simple. The training is about a 15-minute training. Wow. It's like,
and it tells you where to put the screw, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So like every single thing is modeled and, it's really, I think on these big houses, it's really benefited us because we're able to build it on a computer before we have to build it on site. And we know it's going to work. And then when we bring it out on site, it just works. And
it's just a better product.
It's a better product.
Do you, I'm just curious, price point difference between typical framing and steel? And then do you ever have clients that say, no, I don't want the steel?
Yeah. So like pricing is really similar,
Okay.
because and this is how I like to look at things. Like, at least if I was building my house, our labor prices are less because we're much quicker. Our labor prices are just cheaper because we aren't bringing in 8 master carpenters. And so we're able to take that savings, even though the material cost is quite a bit higher than wood, it ends up leveling out because of our savings in labor.
And
so
it's quicker.
It's quicker. So price wise, we're pretty similar to wood. And the other thing that's been like really kind of eye opening with it is because we have everything modeled. Like, I know down to the pound, down to the screw. Like, I know exactly what we're building. So when we bid it, I know my bid is accurate. And we've had several homes that we had engineered in wood and steel. And so we'll get wood bids. And it's crazy, like the difference, because it's just a guess. Like, not everything was modeled out of wood.
Right.
They don't know how much lumber they're going to need. And even if it was modeled, like with lumber, like on a typical house, you'll have anywhere from like 19 to 23% waste. So when you think about that, like 1 out of every 4 or 5 boards, you're just throwing in your dumpster. So it becomes really, really difficult to put those bids together for the wood framers. And so the differences we'll see in those bids is like mind blowing when you know what the actual, I mean, like I said, I know down to the screw or down to the pound.
Yeah. I think one thing that maybe our listeners might be thinking, because we thought it when our client bought it and before it was completed, they decided to sell, we sold to somebody else, and that new buyer wanted modifications. And I was like, okay, we're used to like looking for the stud, right? Like, what can change, what can't change. So we thought that might be a big issue, but it turned out it wasn't. I'm just curious if you can talk to that a little bit. Does each house come with like as built to kind of show like how do people know if they want to modify it? How is it different from lumber?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think one of the advantages is like every single component is modeled. Like whatever was on the plans is exactly what's going to be there. There's no like, oh, well, I thought this might be better.
I'm saying if the homeowner wants to change, wants to move a door in the future, or
correct.
wants to.
So the benefit to that is we know exactly what's there. So, and like we do LiDAR scanning, and we like do, like as-builts and everything to check it along the way. But like, if we need to get into a wall, we really have 2 options. Either we can use a Sawzall, just like you would with wood, cut through it, and make the modification that we need to. A lot of times what we'll do, because everything's screwed together, is we'll just take a wall out, run a new one. We can have it, on site. Like, that whole process might take us, I mean, our shop's about 20 minutes from any of these jobs. So like within the hour, we'll just have a new wall there, screw it in, and be done.
So it's even easier to make changes.
It's easier in a lot of respects, depending on what it is we're doing. But it's either the same as wood, or we're just backing out a couple of screws and then putting a couple screws back in.
So, I mean, and there's technology with that. I'm curious, is there anything else? What else are you using in the technology world right now while building? Yeah.
So, I mean, really kind of how I've approached the steel business is I kind of just sat out and said, hey, I'm a general contractor. Here's everything that I have challenges with. Like, how can we solve those challenges? So, the first thought was, okay, steel's better than wood. Like, accuracy is better than guessing. And so we kind of solved that. Then when we got into it, we started going really, really deep on like the technology side of things. I think that's one of another huge shift that we've seen kind of in the industry is we're getting tech companies who are, putting resources towards solving problems for, building. And like, for example, HP makes a robot, like a robotic printer that we use to do all of our layout. And we literally take the CAD file or the architectural plans, load it into the computer, like hit play on the iPad, and like the printer just goes and does its thing. So and that's been really, really beneficial because we know the printer is going to be right. Like that's what it is. Mm-hmm. And we don't have to have, the smartest person on the crew laying out for 2 days or something like that.
Or the owner's approval.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, okay, here's the floor plans. They're printed on the concrete. Now we can walk it. We put so we obviously do all of our framing. Like every single wall is labeled. So it gives basically the start point and the stop point for the wall. And it's like, you take the wall, you set it in the square and you're good. Wow. But we also do cabinetry. So like when the plumbers come in, they know where all the cabinets are going to be. If we have the drawings, we'll even do the cabinet boxes. So they know they aren't going to, put the plumbing pipe right in between two boxes. Mm-hmm. We'll do the ceiling details. We can do the mechanical. We do all the lighting. And so that's been really, really beneficial. We do LiDAR scans just to kind of check everything. So a lot of this technology that's come in, we've been really early adopters of it, because I think when we're talking with the companies, they're like, okay, these guys get it. They understand it. And I've got some really smart and talented people that can figure out how to use it. And I think that's been, when we're talking about the aging workforce, it's like, most 55-year-old guys that have been in construction their whole life aren't super great on an iPad and working on, like doing a LiDAR scanner. They're like it was kind of funny. We have one scanner that will do where it can do like a real-time scan. So when they were pouring the concrete, because another challenge we have is, like on these big houses, we'll have a 10,000 square foot house and we're pouring, 100 loads of concrete or whatever that day. Like getting everything to be perfectly flat is really difficult. And so like, most people probably wouldn't think this, but your floor in your house probably has variation of, I don't know, anywhere from an inch to 3 inches. Like if you measured everywhere on your slab, mm-hmm. and 3 inch would obviously be the extreme, but there's huge variation. So like on the contracting side, one of the frustrations is we always had when we were doing flooring or anything like that, we'd have to come in and grind it. And it was just a line item that we'd have in the budget, like floor grinding and prep, And so what this scanner does is as we're pouring, it'll do a live scan and it'll give us like a topographic heat map on the iPad. So it'll show us all the high and low points.
That's so cool.
And so we were using it with a concrete crew, and they're, again, all older guys. And, there's like 15 of them out there. And we're like, hey, we just scanned it. And there's like this middle section right here is like 3/4 of an inch high. Can you work that out? And they're like, it's not high. And we're like,
yeah,
well, I think it is. Like, I don't know. Like you can check it, and he takes this little like beep, beep, beep thing, that gives the level. It's just trying to find the laser, and he like jabs it into the concrete and he's like, no, it's right. And you're like, well, it's kind of like in the concrete. Can we just fix it?
Yeah.
And so they're like fighting it. And then, then we show them, hey, here it is. So they fix it. We're like, okay, now it's green. Great job. Thank you. And, so we kind of do the whole slab.
I hate to say it, but the concrete guys might stop showing up at your job sites.
Well, no, it's the opposite. It's the exact opposite because the reality is, I think everyone comes to work and wants to do a good job.
Yeah, that's true.
And or at least, in the projects that we're working on, they want to do a good job. It's just, they don't have the tools or the technology to be able to get all this stuff right.
Well, to get the immediate feedback, that's a huge benefit to what you have.
And so we had a conversation. I was like, so why don't you guys just take a string and tie it like on one end and then put it on the other end, and then you'd be able to see level. And he's like, no, man, that's like the old school way of doing it. He's like, that's why we use the laser. I'm like, well, the laser is now the string. Like, that's what this is like, we get real-time feedback. We can show you all the points. But by the end of the day, you know, like at first when we talked to the owner, he's like, man, like, good luck. These guys are going to punch you in the face. And, and it's like, but by the end of the day, they're like, yo, you going to have that on the next job? And you're like, yeah, like we are, like, because like when you think about it, and I think that's one of the other things is like, fundamentally, these guys want to do a good job. Yeah. They don't necessarily have all the technology to be able to do it. We're getting more and more, but what they really don't want to do is have to come back to that job 2 weeks later and grind the floor. Like, they'd rather just fix it when it's wet and it, you know, takes 2 minutes instead of 3 guys coming out for, you know, a full day to grind it.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess if you had a call to action for the construction industry right now, what would it be?
Get more young people interested. And, you know, I think a lot of like people are motivated by money. And so I think if like schools or education did a better job of showing, hey, you can have a great lifestyle and like you can get all the stuff that you're looking for, you know, white collar, but this might be the route. I think it'd be really, really interesting. And I think we'd get some really talented people. You know, like a couple of, you know, kind of colleagues in the space have been, you know, going to high schools and, you know, doing stuff like that, trying to, you know, recruit, you know, like football players.
Recruit and almost bring them to the job sites too and show them some of the technology that you're using.
Yeah. And like, I think,
using social media as that call to action, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, like, I know for me, like originally, like I always kind of say like, you know, when I graduated college, I went and got like a real job. Right. And like, I worked in an office and I was like, yeah, this is not it for me. Like, if I'm sitting in here as much as I am, like, this is not it. So, you know, I think if you look at, you know, like the team building and, you know, like, there's just something with doing like hard things that's good for people. And I think that like construction is really cool in that sense that like every day we're doing really hard stuff. And, you know, it's physically hard, it's mentally hard. Like, we're solving puzzles, we're trying to like get a bunch of people coordinated. So I think when you look at it from that aspect of, you know, like, again, you know, one of the trades that I work with, he goes out and gives talks to football teams. He's trying to get football players because he's like, guys who are into football would be into this. You know, they like doing hard stuff. They like, you know, the physical aspect of it. And so it's like, I think that, you know, if we could do more of that, it would, not only would it be good for the industry, but it'd be good for the economy. That's because like, I mean, we have a major housing shortage. Like, you know, prices are going up. Like, so it's like you look at all these things and, you know, you kind of look at what's causing it. And this is like a big factor in that puzzle.
Yeah. And they're also, I mean, the kids that do get into construction, it's also a skill that you can take home.
Yeah.
Right. To your family, to your extended family. Like, it's actual skills that you can use. All right. Well, thank you, Ryan. We are at a point in our show. We do a little rapid fire. So some easy questions. First thing that comes to mind. Wondering if I should switch the first question to, who is your favorite realtor? I'm kidding. You don't have
No, they're all my favorite. Like Switzerland, I have to work with everybody.
Great answer.
That's true.
So what is your favorite project you've ever worked on?
I mean, I think like, you know, we do high-end custom homes. So, you know, I think they're all really cool in their own way. And like, I would say like my favorite projects, it's not even necessarily about the project because I think everything we're building is cool in one way or another. It's the people that we're building it for that like make it better, if that makes sense. So like there's a handful of great clients that like, you know, we enjoyed building their house. We enjoyed that they're living in their house, enjoying it. And, you know, I think that's like kind of as a company, that's what we look at.
I love that. If you weren't a builder, what would you be?
Oof, I don't know. Well, like I said, I had another career before this, and like I know I wouldn't be working in an office. So
know what you would be.
like, yeah, like something outside. Something where it's like, teamwork stuff. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Lucky I'm a builder, I guess.
Yeah. The teamwork is interesting. My son had an internship or worked over the summer for the construction zone. And he's studying music. He's a music major. And he mentioned something about how it's almost like lonely in the music industry, and that he really enjoyed the teamwork and the collaboration over the summer, working hard, job site, clean up, whatever you have to do. So that's interesting you said that.
Just another plug for why kids should jump in.
Yeah,
it's true. It's a community. Sure. You're working on a project together to get to finish.
Well, and when you're doing really hard things as a team, it's like you build different relationships than you do.
You bond in a different way.
Yeah, it's like, man, like that was really, really shitty, but I'm glad we did it. It's all type 2 fun,
So what is your favorite construction tech tool that you can't live without?
Ooh, I mean, I think one of the things that we've been really fortunate with, like, I would say I'm a little spoiled, because one of the things that we've gotten really, really good at over the last couple of years is being able to justify like stupid purchases. Mm-hmm. And like when you really start boiling down a lot of this tech, it's like there's always a way to find a return on investment for it. So you're like, and it's really easy with a lot of the tech, and it's easy because we're working on big, complex projects where it's like, hey, if we make a mistake, it could cost us $25,000. So this $100,000 scanner, like all we have to do is avoid 4 mistakes and it pays for itself. Yeah. And so like we've invested, whatever you want to say, like bought a lot of toys, over the last handful of years, but the way that they kind of all work together to solve the big problem. I think even like a lot of my older guys, and I would say older to their face, like I'm not being offensive.
We're talking about Bob.
Yeah. Like guys like Bob, right? Bob. Like at first he's like, yeah, that thing's stupid. It's a paperweight, and like now he's like, man, we need to make sure that we get that scanning scheduled, and so it's like, I think that each tool has become really, really important for what it does, because it just allows like the next phase of the next tool to be able to do its job.
That makes sense. So all of them. Awesome. You have another one?
Well, we can wrap it, I think we're.
All right. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on our show and sharing your insights. I think it's super valuable, and hopefully this can help. Maybe we can get this out to some teenagers and see if we can push them your way. Yeah. We are going to post all of your contact information in our show notes, but if you want to, would you tell our listeners where they could find you?
Yeah. So Arcadia Custom Builders is the home building company, and then Revolution Steel is the steel framing company.
Note your merchandise hat you have on.
Yeah. Steel
branding. All right. That's it for today's Modern Home Mastermind. If you've enjoyed the episode, please like, subscribe, and rate us.
And thanks to Ryan for sharing his insights with us. And thanks to you for learning about everything modern with us.
If you're ready to take the next step in your real estate journey, please reach out to us at Bespoke Real Estate. And until next time, keep living, loving everything modern.